Welcome back, everyone, to the BD1P Binding of Isaac modded series. Today is going to be an eggs run for win number 3 in episode number 313, I believe. Your question for today is going to be, put your answer in the comments down below. What was the first job you have ever had? If you don't have a job yet, what is your dream job, I guess? Let's get started here. I know nothing about this character. The other, he has a big hat. He's got a big head, that's for sure. Seed is going to be H1LLNRAC. I don't think you're supposed to start with the watermelon. That's a different modded item, but I guess the code is just kind of mixed up there. We have a really good damage stat and a decently good fire rate stat, and everything seems to be, like, pretty good. What about our item room over here? Tiny horn. Okay, so this is obviously another one of the meme characters, right? I want to get through every meme character and then never, ever, ever play them again. So I think we have like 2 more to go after eggs. Then we can uninstall the Filbert mod forever and finally be back to our graceful selves. Hold on here. Gotta get some big gaming in. Dutch. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But today is going to be more of like a story time for today's like topic, because I had an old coworker text me recently and it kind of like got me thinking about my old job and like, man, there is so much like untapped gold for conversation from that one job, and I want to kind of cover a couple, or I guess the general story of that workplace if I can today. And the reason being is just like, it wasn't like a terrible, awful place to work. It's gonna sound really bad, but to be quite honest with you, most of the time, despite the health hazards, it was fine. Also, I kind of want to buy the tarot deck for runes and just steal that right now. But here's the thing. Is at this job, it was a very small, I'm not going to say the name of it because it was a one-off company. It's not like, you know, a chain like McDonald's or anything like that. But within this job, there were very, very few employees. I think if I had to count in my head right now, without saying names, there were 4, 5, 6, then we'll say 7 for safety, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe like 12, 11, 10 to 12 employees on average there. And over half of those worked in the office. I was in the back at the other, you know, side of the factory, the production side of the factory. Huge bomb, by the way. And I guess to wind back time a minute here, I can hit both of these, I think. Oh my God, that was a huge yield. Yeah, sure, we can do this as well. I started working there when I was, oh my God, 16. And I didn't start because I wanted to work there. It was actually because my friend, and a friend of the channel too, from the 4-player file, Jacob, he was the main intern there for an internship at our school. However, he had his tennis starting up, and they needed a replacement for him for just a couple of months while he was in tennis. I could do the simple work that he was doing. And Jacob was like, hey, you're looking for a job, why don't you take over my place for like 3 months? And I was like, you know what, that sounds like a swell time. Nothing too, you know, crazy, just a very simple, like all you had to do there was pretty much label like customer samples. And you would label them, send them out, and that was that. Again, like very, very easy stuff. And I was getting paid, I think it was like 11 per hour. So decent pay for what I was doing. It was very, 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 I can't stress it enough, extremely easy for a job. And I met some good employees there, met some good people. Most notably, my boss, Pete, and our sales manager, Steve, and my kind of overseer, George. So me, Pete, Steve, and George were pretty tight because they were just funny guys. They were like a little bit older. They weren't my age. They were like adults who just like, you know, found a liking to me because I was the intern there. And they pulled some pranks on me, played some joshes. It was all in good jest though, as it usually always is. Watch this play, by the way. You just know sometimes. What the fuck is this? Okay. Okay. And ooh, you know what, dude? I'll pop the sun card here. And once my 3 months were up, Jacob came back, and I hope Jacob doesn't watch this episode because I'm about to shit talk Jacob really hard. He's a good friend of mine, don't worry. But Jacob came back, and George had told me that they wanted to keep both of us because I did a bit more work than Jacob did, but Jacob also did a good amount of work, but they didn't want to fire either of us. So I ended up getting hired full-time there and became like an actual employee. Now, I didn't really want that because I was like, I just wanted to work here for a few months to get some money, then go back to being an unemployed high schooler. But I was like, I'm getting this good opportunity. The pay is good. I already know like the workers here. Like I'll just stick it out, I guess. I'll be a brave little toaster, and I do that. So me and Jacob start working in what we called the samples department for a while. Betrayal, disgusting. Which was again just like, we would get the samples for customers, we would pack them up and send them out, and that was like literally all that we did. Again, it was a very, very simple field. And what we were selling at this business was tiling, like tiling for roofs or for walls or anything like that. There were these like metal colored painted tiles, right? They were pretty expensive. They were like $12 for a single tile. They were very, very pricey, but we got to make some good business there. We did a job at Summerfest. We did a job at Universal Studios, like I believe Rutgers University as well. A lot of really cool stuff we did there. It felt like it was fulfilling work, like that kind of construction stuff. And samples was fine because it was, again, like easy. It was decently boring and tedious work, but we weren't like, pushing shit around all day. We were like actually doing, I don't really care about that, what felt like fulfilling work. And it got to a point where Pete, who was kind of like the general manager of the entire place, was like, hey boys, like you guys are getting your potential wasted just sitting here in samples all day doing rudimentary sorting work. Why don't you guys come on back to like the factory plant? And me and Jacob are like, I don't really want to work in the factory plant. Like it sounds like it'd be hard work, and we're just like two goofballs trying to make some like money in the summer. But instead of, like waiting for us to properly answer, Pete took some initiative. And Pete's a great guy. I'm not going to trash on Pete. Pete was a fantastic manager. I talk to him almost like every month now still, just texting back and forth. But Pete didn't really want to know if like we were willing to work back there. Instead, the employees who were back there before us were like really bad, so he just he fired every single one of them, and then said, we have no employees back there, it's you two now. And so, well, there were still some employees back there. He kept 2 or 3 people in specific. The water treatment guy who helped with the chemical treatment, the shipping and receiving guy, and 1 general labor guy named Evan. And he kind of just threw us back there like with these strangers and said, all right, this is your quota, hit this every day and we'll be good. Now, we had no idea what we were doing back there. I had only ever been back there like twice to do anything besides just like grab some equipment and go back to the front. It was a bit of a shocking experience, and we were kind of like, I was nervous because I've never done like factory labor, construction, anything like that. This was my first time. But Pete walked us through it. He was like, hey, here's what you're going to do. You're going to load these tiles onto this rack. We're going to put them through our line. We're going to take them out, dry them, and pack them into these boxes. But it was a grueling process. It was honestly like, when I think of hard work and like physically hard labor, nothing will ever top that job. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it's summer in Wisconsin, like, it's not bleeding hot like it is in Texas, but it gets decently hot outside. Like, it can hit, like, 80 degrees. But the issue wasn't the outside temperature. No, the issue was the inside temperature. In order for our coloring process to work on these tiles, it had to be around, like, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or at a very set temperature around these heated water coloring tanks, which, again, was rough because working in physical labor, in the work outfit being required to wear jeans and steel-toed boots and like a t-shirt with Kevlar sleeves and work gloves, you're going to get pretty damn sweaty. And when you're constantly reaching into these big bins, pulling out a tile, putting it on a rack, going back and forth, and pushing that like 100-pound rack down an aisle for 9 hours every day, it fucking blows. It sucks, and I hated it at first. I almost got close to being like, you know what? I'm going to go work at like the Piggly Wiggly. I'm going to go work at a fucking grocery store. This shit blows. But I stuck it out because my friend worked there, and the manager, like Pete, was just such a cool fucking dude. I was like, you know what? I got to stay here. I got to do my due diligence here. And as time went on, it got easier. You got more used to the actual like movements of it. You got more used to how to pack boxes. I mean, I went from doing like 3 boxes per hour up to doing like 10 an hour within like a 3-month period. I mean, we were zooming back there. We were getting way better at our job. And then one of our new jobs started. I don't know the name of this job, but it wasn't doing tiles. It was doing these things called sheets. And what sheets were these 48 by 120 inch like stainless steel metal that would weigh anywhere from about 60 pounds to 180 pounds, depending on the gauge of that metal. The lightest gauge we did being 24 gauge, and the heaviest at the time being 18 gauge. Now, sheets are hard because they're really big. 120 inches. I mean, that's large. It's a large piece of metal. And what you do is you'd pick them up, like hand on top, hand on side, and you put it into these clamps and you tighten them. And it would be 2 guys per sheet. You got to do it on both sides of the rack. And 24 gauge weren't that heavy, but the risk of like cutting yourself with a thin piece of metal like that while you're sorting it onto a rack is pretty high. And luckily for us, we had our Kevlar gloves to protect us, but it was a little bit like, daunting for a bit. We got into the job went fine, things were going great. Then one day, after our first like 24 gauge, like the lightest gauge of steel job, our manager, Pete, he goes, "Hey, we just got an order for our heaviest gauge yet. It's going to be an 18 gauge job." And we were like, 18 gauge, how much does that weigh? And he looks at us and he goes, "It weighs about 120 to 140 pounds per sheet. And it's thick." It's thick as fuck. That metal was like, honestly, like, and I used to be a pretty like prolific weightlifter back in high school. Like when I was a junior, I was benching about a plate. I'm a skinny guy, mind you, I'm a very skinny guy. I have never struggled more with anything more than trying to lift up this sheet with Jacob. And it sucked. And the job wasn't just like, oh, it's 10 sheets and you're done. This was like a 140 sheet job. So you were lifting these sheets up all day, and it fucking sucked, man. And that was kind of like the point where I was like, man, like up front in the office, people who work like the sales department, they don't really think of the physical labor back here. They just want the sales to go out. So me and a couple of my coworkers were talking. I made a mistake. Hold on. I made a really big mistake in that room. I should not have gone that path. We kind of talked to Pete and we're like, "Hey, you guys are used to having like these grown men back here doing this job. And that's great. Maybe you can get down to like, we call these things runs, like getting a sheet through the line or like a rack through the line was called one run. And you were supposed to hit around 22 runs a day, 24 runs maybe on a good day. And because it was like me and Jacob and another guy who was like my size and my weight back there, ain't no way 3 of us are being able to dry off these sheets efficiently while also loading them at the same time and getting them put into the line. It's not going to happen. They went from a crew of like, I think it might have been like 12 people back there to a crew of essentially 3 of us. And they wanted us to still hit that 24 runs a day. And I was like, "Pete, no offense to you, but this is kind of bullshit, man. Like, you fired grown men to put high schoolers back here. And you're making us do 4 times the work at like 1/4 of the age. It doesn't make much sense to me." And he was like, "You know what? You're right. I'm going to talk to the sales department and we're going to probably change our like efficiency rating for getting jobs done." And I was like, "Thank you." Like, cause like it was rough. I mean, there were days where like he had to buy us sweatbands. Like the company bought us sweatbands because of how hot and hard the work was back there, and it blew. But we got our average down from 24 to I think it was like 18 runs a day, which is still way too much. But because we were high schoolers and we got a raise to like, I think it was 12 to 13 bucks an hour back there, we were expected to do that amount of work, with less people, saving the company money pretty much. And obviously with this, we had a new line technician because they fired the old one, so he was still kind of getting used to how to color these sheets, because the coloring process isn't just like you put it in for 10 minutes, take it out, and it's done. Each color and each shade has a very specific time, down to the very second. And I it's a tight window. I used to run the line myself after a couple years of being there. And if it's in there for 1 second too long, at 1 degree too hot, you have ruined an entire potentially $100 sheet on its own. It's not a good look for the company. So everybody was new back there, and they had like a third of the crew trying to get us to do their job and a little bit less efficiently, and it was not working out. Now, it wasn't just doing the runs and then boxing. It was doing the runs, it was boxing, it was loading them up, you know, like getting the boxes ready for shipment, getting the truck in there and all that kind of stuff, solving maintenance issues and shit like that. It was a very taxing job for a 16 to 17-year-old to do. But again, like, I thought it was rewarding and honest work, so I kept with it because I was like, I did enjoy it after a certain extent. I mean, you can mock me all you want, but like, I really do enjoy like that kind of taxing physical labor because it makes you tired and it makes you feel like you did something that day. You feel accomplished that day, and I enjoyed that feeling. So I kept doing it, and we got through some pretty fucked up jobs. And I think the next like point of interest in this is our maintenance guy. His name was Ethan, I believe, and Ethan was kind of lazy. You know, I liked him. He was a funky guy, but he was a little bit lazy. Like, he rarely ever did his job. He would kind of just, like, stand around or just, like, weld random shit together. And it was starting to piss everybody off. Because, like, he could be back there helping us lift shit up or dry stuff off in his downtime. But he wasn't. And Ethan was kind of fed up with the job because, like, he was mad people were on his ass for not doing enough work, but also, like, just didn't want to do any work. So he found a different job and didn't tell anybody he was leaving. So one day, we just didn't have a maintenance guy. And that same fucking day, like, a bunch of shit just randomly broke. And we have no idea as to why it all broke or how it all broke, but just a bunch of random shit broke. And we had to shut the line down for about a week, which was really bad for the company because we're a small company who makes money by getting stuff out, you know, on time. And that wasn't happening anymore. I hate this boss, dude. He's charmed, though, which is huge for us. Why? Why would you do that to me? I'm just a little guy with a big hat. I'm just a little guy, you piece of shit. Give me that cork right there. It's really good for our current passive item we have going on. Like, watch how big this. Oh, the creep is huge. It's huge, boys. It's so good. Walk into here. I'm trying to find my item room that we'll go fight our boss and go to our next floor, but the item room is kind of being a bit hidden right now, if you will. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I'm getting hit by so much random shit right now. The run's going fine, though, mind you. Hey, oh, we can use this, please. What is that? It's gonna give us a bunch of stuff now because we have the rune. I guess just take that. It's not the worst thing in the world. But we had no maintenance guy and a bunch of stuff broke. Which, when the line was finally fixed, we were behind schedule. Now, we worked our asses off for like 3 weeks straight. We were staying overtime every single day, getting paid overtime, luckily for us, and we got everything caught up within 3 weeks. Then, it's around September now, I believe. We don't have any jobs for 2 months. No jobs come in. And they were still requiring us to come in every single day. And you know what we did those days? We would sweep the entire factory floor. We'd wash down the walls. It was a chromic acid solution that would color our stuff. The chrome would eat away at the metal's surface and then create the color. Then we'd seal it back up with a silicone like covering. So there was always chromic acid everywhere on the walls. And we'd always have to hose that down every couple of weeks. But you can only hose a wall down so much before you start, ruining everything else about it. Like, we're doing nothing for these couple of months. And we got to a point where we were doing so little that we started building ramps. Ooh, what is that? Oh, it's just dead dove? We'll take it, sure. We started building ramps out of plywood and like skateboarding over them because we had a skateboard in the back for fast transportation. Not really a good way to do things in a factory, but you get it. Like, it happens sometimes. So we had nothing to do. And they were always on our ass about like finding efficient work to do when there was nothing. So it was kind of annoying. And then a couple months passed. We get some like light work, nothing too major. I want this so badly. Thank you. And I come into work one day. Actually, it's Thanksgiving Eve. I remember the day in my mind precisely. Jacob's late. Jacob was always late to work. We had this joke. They were like, work starts at 7 o'clock, but for Jacob at 7:06 because he's always 6 minutes late exactly. But I come into work and Pete's not there. And the aforementioned Steve is also not there. And I'm looking around, and there were two Steves. There was Steve, the plant manager, and Steve, like the sales manager. And I asked Steve, the plant manager, hey, like, where are Pete and Steve? And he goes, they got fired. And I was like, no, he's obviously fucking with me. Because, like, we had those jokes constantly back there, you know. Oh, Jacob was fired, Ben was fired, all that kind of stuff. But, like, he's just, like, sad. Like, he looks like he's, like, about to cry. And I'm like, he's fucking with me, right? And all of a sudden, the sales department walks back. And they go, all right, everybody, it's time for our like, morning meeting, which happened very rarely. And we all kind of gather around, and one of them is crying, and she goes, Walter, the big boss of the corporation, I probably shouldn't say his name, but whatever, like, doesn't really matter too much, fired Pete and Steve. They were thinking about buying him out and owning the company themselves, and Walter didn't like the idea, so Walter fired them. And I'm kind of like, holy shit, we have no manager back here now to help us with our work. We're fucking alone now. Like, we have nobody back here. And we don't know if our jobs are safe, because we were all, like, really close with Pete and Steve, so we don't know if our jobs are safe or compromised. It's kind of all up in the air. And it was what me and Jacob called the dark days of our work, because it went from being, like, a decently fun but hard place to work at to painful. Because once Steve and Pete were gone, there was nobody to kind of be that middleman from, like, what is too much work for us in the back, because nobody in the front ever, like, witnessed the work we did. It was always just, they can do more, they can do more. And because there was that mediator wasn't back there, it was just work after work after work. We started, like, ruining products more because we were on such crunch time. We were losing, like, thousands of dollars every day because they kept pushing us harder and harder, and that leads to issues and mistakes all across the board for everybody. That's really good, by the way. We're on depths 2. Okay, so don't go in there yet. You know, that was the closest I ever got to quitting, was that month, because it was honestly worse than the restaurant job that I used to have. It was brutal, and to a certain point, we were kind of like, well, we're now down another man back here. Pete is gone, and they just put who was water treatment Steve to become our plant manager Steve. So now he's not on water treatment. We need to get another water treatment guy, essentially. We needed to get another laborer back there. Like, everything was getting fucked up constantly. I mean, there was no rest for it. Then this new job starts, called Universal. It was a job for Universal Studios. And Jacob is no longer working there because he's in the school play. So it's literally just me and one other guy back there doing all of this work. And for Universal was a different job. I'm gonna lay it out for you there. We had a lot of different colors at this workplace. We had a range of, I believe it was like 14 different colors. And Universal wanted us to have a mix of 6, maybe 3 different colors. But they wanted it to be completely random per box, so that when it goes up on the wall from the unpackers who put it up there, the wall looks completely random, right? So before Pete and Steve left, they had devised this system for me when I packed. It was a list of every single box. It was 60 tiles per box, and there were 40 boxes. And it was a purely randomized sheet. I had to follow to the T. It had to be like this color, different color, different color. And if I didn't follow this box, the wall would look too splotchy. You'd have like too many of this color in one spot, or not enough here, if that makes sense to you guys. But it wasn't just that we had 3 colors. It wasn't just that. Each of the 3 colors had their own shades, light, medium, and dark. So it was essentially, no, I'm not. I passed out last time I had this fucking item. I'm not doing it again. That was the scariest day of my life. Can I teleport into there? Almost. I almost could. Not the greatest room to find, but that's okay. Wait, I can restock that. Don't be an idiot. Don't banter too hard right now. And he gave me these sheets to do this randomization on. And I was following all of these sheets to a T. I was like literally like being so diligent with these. But then I realized something as I was doing it. There's supposed to be 40 boxes for this job, right? I don't remember what the proper like thing was, and each color was equal distribution. But as I'm doing like my box counts, and I'm boxing it up. yeah, sure. And I'm realizing that I'm running out of the light bronze color. It might have been like medium bronze. I don't really know. But I'm running out of this color, sure. And I don't really know what to do because I still have 4 boxes left, but not enough color to finish those off. So I text one of the sales ladies and I'm like, hey, like whoever did the numbers for this randomization sheet didn't count right because we have too many boxes, not enough tiles. And she goes, that's impossible. Those numbers were done correctly. I did them. And I was like, I don't know, come back here. So we spend 2 days going over these sheets because it's like one of those like very simple math problems, but because of the whole like, I don't know how you would phrase it. I don't want to say composition, but because of the way that like it's laid out with all the randomization, you can't figure out if you're either tiles short or the math is wrong. You're not really sure what's going on there. And we had kept diligent count. Oh my god, we have Forget Me Now Yara for the chest. Triple Yara, mind you. It was one of those very confusing mathematical problems. And so, like she comes back. This lady's name, I'm not going to say her name because a lot of us didn't really like her there because she was a little bit patronizing, I guess is the word you could use. So we're counting through them. And I look at her and I'm like, listen, I have no fucking idea what's going on here. Because, like, I swear to God, I followed all of these sheets to a T. I checked off every individual, and I'm getting kind of pissed now. Because, like, they're trying to blame it on, like, me and the other boys back there. And I'm like, we counted. We have, like, literal receipts of us counting every single fucking tile in this entire place. And it's all on the sheets, and every number is triple checked. Now, we can unpack all of these boxes, and we can see, you know, who went wrong here. And she goes, yeah, why don't we do that? So she made me unpack every single fucking box and recount every single tile. You might be asking yourself, it doesn't sound like it'd take too long. Well, here's the thing. It wasn't just you eyeball the color and see if it's light, medium, or dark. We had a reader that would read the color on the tile and tell you within a certain range of what it was. Like, there was an L value, an A value, and a B value. The L value was for lightness. It was from, you know, like 0 to 100. I believe the A was like red to green and the B was like blue to yellow or some shit like that. And you would use those ranges that would read you to tell what color it was. Like, for example, like if the L value was 30, it'd be like a medium bronze. 31 would be like a light bronze, stuff like that. So I had to unpack every single box and I had to reread every single, what's 40 times 60, huh? Like 240? No, it's more than that, right? 2,400? I don't know. It's some. I can't do math. I'm too pissed off thinking about this whole shebang again. No, it is 2,400. I just scan all of these tiles back again and put them back in the proper place. Now, here's the other issue: is the silicone coating we use on these tiles that I mentioned earlier. Over time, will darken the tile. And these boxes had been sitting there for about a week, meaning the L values are going to be a little bit off. So, and we're all aware of this. We all know this there. It's not a big deal. But I had to rescan every single tile and resort them all, only to find out that I was right, that yes, every tile we had was right. The randomization sheets were wrong. And for making me unpack all of my work and waste everybody's time because they couldn't accept that they were in the wrong there for anything, her response was just, oh, well, let's figure it out now. Like, we should have been figuring this out forever ago. You know, also, we dodged that explosion somehow. I don't know how that happened. I was frustrated, man. I was just like, oh my God. I wanted to like pop someone's head open. So I made one of the most alpha choices of my entire career, and I sent out a like 3,000 like word long email to the company detailing what was going on back there, because nobody ever came to check with us since Pete had been fired, and like communication was all over the fucking board. And I knew up front they were like, oh, I almost said her name, that the lady was saying it was on us. So I made an email with all the evidence and all the stuff, and I said we need to have a meeting like by the next morning, because I am not unpacking all of these fucking boxes again and doing all of that work because someone can't count up front. That was like my exact wording there. I was pissed off. And that email could have gone one or two ways. It could have A, gotten me fired, or B, made some actual change. But what it ended up doing was a third option, where the head of the company, Walter, the guy who had fired Pete, thought it was a very good email, thought I was taking initiative, and he liked that about me. He was like, you know what? Oh, we could do that for sure, maybe. He was like, that was very good of you to do that, and I respect it. And he came back with all the salespeople, and he basically like fucking berated them for making us do all this extra work constantly, which was a satisfying feeling, but it only made them hate me more, which kind of made the whole workplace a little bit more awkward. However, it felt good to kind of get one over on them for once, just based off of how like frustrated that job was. No item pedestal for us in there. Very, very sad. Anyways, though, I kind of forget how the job like actually ended. I'm pretty sure what I ended up doing, wow, that was a strange shot. What I ended up doing was just like randomizing it by my eyes. I was like, you know what? These sheets aren't working. One of you miscounted. We have no idea what the total job total is. I'm going to pack up 40 random boxes and say, fuck it, it's out of here. And that's what I did. And you know what? There were no complaints from the company, Universal Studios, at all. If you go to Universal Studios and you see like a bronze and peacock colored wall somewhere, I packed every single one of those boxes twice. That's me. That's me there. I'm the coolest guy alive. But anyways, Universal ends, and around this time, we get some new employees back there, because Jacob's not coming back. He doesn't really feel like it. He does come back, sorry. He was there for this summer. But around this winter, when Universal was happening, we hired 2 new employees. We hired Eric and Riley, who ended up becoming my closest coworkers there. My favorite fucking people I've ever worked with in my entire life. Eric is my #1 like favorite employee, and oh my god, hello, sir. Such a great fucking dude. Like one of, if not the most respectable and down-to-earth guys I've ever met in my entire life. Like crazy good. Anyways, though, Eric and Riley are there to help with the labor there. But immediately, instead of putting Riley on the labor, they say, hey, Riley, why don't you become the new line tech so Steve can go back to being the plant manager? And so we lose one laborer immediately. And I was like, fuck, we needed to have somebody back here to help us do labor. But whatever. It's me, Eric, and Jacob back there. Now, Evan had quit a while ago. So it was kind of like, it was fine. Some other people came and helped out for a little bit. I think the owner's grandson was there for like a couple months in the summer when COVID was happening to help us with like a little bit of extra reserve work. But essentially what happens is it boils down to just being me and Eric back there every day, every single day. And to put in perspective too, how much I worked there. When I was a senior in high school, I was working 30 hours a week at that place because I had an apprenticeship there. So I had to leave school middle of the day and work from like 12 to, I had to mimic door right there, by the way, from like 12 to I think around like 6, something like that. I don't really remember. It was around that margin of work. And we get this new job, and this job is by far the worst thing I think any of us had ever experienced ever. And I might send this video to Eric to see if I can get his approval on like if it was the worst, because he hated this shit as much as I did. But essentially what happens is it's this job called Saracen. Oh, fuck this. Are we down? Oh my god, what the hell was that bullshit? I need that rune back is the issue. Go down the trap door, you fool. Ooh, fever. Nah, we can go for gold here. Hold on. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Charm of the Vampire? We don't need that. One more. It's gonna blow up this time though, isn't it? Okay, you know what? Actually, pretty big for us. This job is called Saracen, and it is not only the hardest color to get right on the line, but instead of it being like 18 gauge, our lowest material, it's a 14 gauge job. We don't even do this at our workplace. This is a brutal ass room. We don't even do 14 gauge. Our line was not built to handle the thickness and the weight of 14 gauge. 14 gauge sheets, I believe, are around 180 pounds each. And they want us to, with no practice, no like theoretical training on, how to handle it or if our line can even handle it. They want us to just fucking do the job. And it's supposed to be, at first, just 4 test sheets. Maybe it was like 10 or 12. I don't know. It was just a decent amount of like testing sheets so the company can see what we have to offer. So we get those testing sheets on the line. The first rack goes into our line here. Oh my God, what the fuck? Where did that come from? We don't have the lunch bag trinket, do we? Maybe this character started with it. I don't know. We have this now, though, which is pretty sick. We needed that HP, like, real badly. The first rack goes into our line. You know what happens? The line fucking breaks for 2 weeks, pretty much. I think it was 1 week, and then once we got it back up and running, one of our heaters took a shit. So it was like 2 weeks of not doing anything. And they put that on us. They said it was our fault the line broke. And we were up there every single day with, you know, socket wrenches trying to fix it and, like, testing different weights and shit like that to pretty much what was zero avail. So back to sweeping and back to all that kind of shit the rest of the couple of months. And the line finally gets back up and working. We get our test sheets done of the 14 gauge. And me and Eric, like, our arms are, like, sore as fuck. I mean, we can't even, like, do anything. We are just out of it completely. But it's not over yet because after a couple more odd jobs for like different material, Saracen gives us the go-ahead to start producing sheets for them. And I'm like, fuck, that's going to be like a full order of 14 gauge sheets. It ends up being one of our, quantity-wise, most sheets ever ordered. It was like in the 240 maybe. It was a high amount of sheets. And they wanted us to do that for them. After our line just broke, after just doing fucking samples, they want us to run that line for 18 runs a day, 14 gauge sheets with 2 of us back there for labor. How ridiculous. Maybe Jacob was back at that time after tennis. Might have been like 3 or maybe 4 of us back there, but still, that's not good enough for this job. And the other thing is, because these sheets, what was the special thing? There was something special about these. Oh yeah, you know what it was? Is because blue was so hard, it was a blue color. Because blue was so hard to do, they wanted us to scan each corner of the sheet so they knew what the lab values were on each corner, so that when they cut it up for the sculpture, whatever they're using it for, they would have the proper coloring down. So it was like extra work. Now, we start doing these special labels for it that the lady up front, who also did the universal numberings, gave us. And halfway through, we find out that the labeling we're doing is wrong. And it's not our fault again, it's the lady's fault. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is lovely. This is so good for us. Look at this. Look at this, dude. Oh my God, I could not be happier right now. 1, 2, 3. These are not very good items, though, either way. You do this, you do this, you do this. You can dig up 1 chest with this, I believe, like right here. Or nothing happens, that's fine too. You grab this as well, get your other items over here. Then you want to forget me now and get some extra chests right away. You're an active, you're all active, okay. Do it again, do it again. But to wind up our story here before the episode's over, also no edits episode, look at that. A non-edited episode for the first time in years. We had to take these 14 gauge sheets off of the pallets we put them on. To take them off, take our special PVC wrapping off of them, which, by the way, because it's hot out, it tears very easily. Unwrap all of these sheets. I'll use some visual aids, I think, for pictures and for the line and stuff like that. And we're supposed to, like, relabel every single one, moving up and down. Now, these are very heavy sheets. I cannot stress that enough. These are very, very, very heavy sheets. And so when you're putting them onto other pallets on top of other sheets that were just freshly wrapped, you're going to have the occasional scratch or two because these are 180 pounds. You're lifting them off the ground. And so a couple of the sheets get scratched up pretty badly. And because they're below on the bottom of the pallets, we can't see the scratches. So we send the job out. Saracen gets mad at us and they go, there's scratches all over our sheets. They send them back. And the office is like, this is unforgivable. Why are there so many? This is like we lost like $30,000 today. It's like, what do you want us to do? Like, move the sheets 3 times? There's no solution to this problem besides fix your labeling issue. Like, that was the whole core issue, but no, it's all on everybody back here. Oh, you know, damn. Like, have no wrong, do no wrong. I'm getting so mad right now thinking about this shit again, dude. It's gonna be a 2-part story. Look forward to the second part tomorrow, I guess. It goes on for much longer. But we have to relabel all of the fucking sheets, scan them all again, and each sheet like has its own like specified number value as well, like what sheet number it is in the job. So it's like 6 different labels per sheet we have to rescan, and they wonder why we're taking so long to do it and all this stuff. Like, this is, by the way, not even the health concerns. This is just the job concerns. The health concerns come in tomorrow's episode, because those are even like worse. Like, I can get lung cancer from that place potentially. But we do all of this work over again, and it gets done, and we send it off, and it's just about hitting the winter months now. And I've been doing some like labeling. I've been doing inventory. No, sorry, one last thing. We are sent to do inventory, which is like, we have like over, it was like 2 million different like products there that we had to like sort through. And because the lady who did Universal's numbering in that didn't want to do it, she put me in charge of inventory as like a promotion. Despite not getting a raise, I was still working for 13 bucks an hour when my coworkers who were adults were making 20 an hour. Totally fair, by the way. I got denied for a raise there as well because I'm too young when I was already moving out of my house. But, you know, whatever, not a big deal, right? I ended up having to work on a weekend, July 3rd, which was my birthday, because inventory wasn't done. They made me come to work on a Saturday on my birthday to do work because the lady who did the lady who did Universal didn't want to come in that day. It's kind of fucked up. It's a little bit fucked up. And as the months go by, Christmas comes, and we get a Christmas bonus every year, right? And my coworkers who have worked the same amount as me, the same amount of hours as me, get like $1,200, $1,400. My check is for $200. And I get this ahead of time. Like, I get this like number value because I think the accountant told me. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. So I go to the front office and I ask the lady who's giving the checks out. I was like, hey, I got to have my bill early, or my Christmas bonus early. I have to pay my phone bill. And she goes, oh, no bother. She hands me my Christmas bonus. I leave, and I never come back. I text my manager, Steve, and I was like, hey, Steve, by the way, I'm not coming back. I'm tired of this place. And he goes, you know what? If I were you, I would have left 6 months ago. I'm glad you're gone. Like, not like he hated me. He loved me. But he was like, I'm glad you're choosing to leave now because this place will suck your soul. And the reason it's all so in my head right now is because my coworker, Eric, texted me that they recently fired all of them and brought back the crew that they fired in the first place to put me and Jacob back there, which I thought was perfect irony. I hope that company sinks and dies, and they all get good jobs afterwards, but I hope it just sinks and dies. But yeah, tomorrow we'll talk about the health concerns of that place because, oh Lord, oh Lord. You want to talk about HOSA violations? What's it called? OSHA? Not HOSA. HOSA's the high school science group. The OSHA violations there. Oh boy. Oh brother. Are we gonna die here? Nah. BD1P never dies. Are our tears going through walls? No, we have my reflection, you dang old fool. We win the run, by the way. Good banter. See you tomorrow. Peace out. And goodbye.